There's no one in this world big enough to take out my earrings, including you, and proceeded to show them. All right, let's go forward to 1960 or 1947. I was 6 years old, and from the time I was 6 till I was about 10 or 11, I can't recall any summers that I spent with the neighborhood kids. I do have memories that my mother later told me were false, that spending with my Uncle Ed learning how to be a peddler. And he could sell fire to the devil. And I asked her in 1986, I said, I have these memories of being with my Uncle Ed in the summertime. Where was I? She looked at me and smiled and said, you were never with your Uncle Ed. And when you get old enough, you'll understand what I mean. And she gave me that look that I knew all too well. It says I had asked enough questions. Now, how did they split me? Well, I inherited this extreme dislike of reptiles. And when you're 6 years old and you're put in a casket with snakes and frogs and toads and lizards and all kinds of other things, it does things to you. I still don't like reptiles.
I am with you, brother. I don't like reptiles.
Dead reptile. And through work with psychics, I have uncovered that I have had at least 8 altars. Numbers 1 through 6 and A and B. I know what A and B and 5 and 6 did. What 1 through 4 did, I haven't got a clue yet. But I'm going to dig more into that. But my job was to take a mosaic and build a clear picture out of it. I was given an assignment, given a team, and said, go do this. Here's what we want you to accomplish. How I got there, how I did it, was up to me. Duncan was taken when he was 6 or 7. He's already told his story. But he was gone for like 5 years. And when I saw Duncan here in 1993, when I first met him, I knew him. There was no doubt in my mind I knew him.
All right, well, for the audience, let's make sure that they understand who you're talking about. His name is Duncan O'Finioan. And, folks, if you want to check him out, you can go to DuncanO'Finioan.com. All right, DuncanO'Finioan.com. We have to step away for a break, and we'll be back right after this, so don't go away. Welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show. My guest this evening is Dave Corso. And, Dave, we were talking about your involvement in the Super Soldier program, and you'd mentioned Duncan, and I was letting people know who he is. But your job, as I understand it, was to take fragments of the picture and assemble them into a clear picture.
That's correct.
All right. Now, what branch of the service of the military were you affiliated with?
The Marine Corps.
Marine Corps, okay. Now, since you mentioned Duncan, let me bring this up. You first met Duncan, I believe, when you were in Vietnam, right? I mean, you first saw him.
Cambodia, actually.
Well, tell us about that.
We were down in the Delta doing a little job. Chopper came over and said, you got to go to Cambodia. There's someone that needs your help. So me and the team climbed aboard there, and 45 minutes, an hour later, we were in Cambodia. He said, we can't go no further because there's a hell of a firefight going on down there. So I assessed the situation and said, there's more there than we can handle. We need a backup. Okay. 20 minutes later, there shows up this CH-46 Chinook helicopter. Out gets these 13 little kids. One of them was a white kid, was sort of like at the center of it. They joined hands, and the next thing I realized, there was a blinding flash with no sound. White light that just blinded everybody. And at that instant in time, there was no more firing, so we went in and we found the Special Forces team that we were in sent in. I said, what'd you see, Master Sergeant? He said, I don't know who you are, but all I saw was a blinding flash. Now, just to regress a few minutes, when we went back, as soon as that flash happened, I looked at the chopper, and there was a gentleman standing there in a green uniform with a strange shoulder patch. You couldn't make out too much what it was. All right, so we get everyone back, and we're all safe. And a couple days later, I'm down in Saigon, and I run across this officer again in a different uniform. Remembered the face. Well, it happens that on his shoulder patch was what we figured out later, working with Aaron McCullum. He had a Stargate patch on his shoulder. Now, the gentleman's name was John Morrow. All right, let's fast forward to 1992 when I have my computer shop here in Pahrump. John Morrow walks in my office, or in my store, and I looked at him, and I had this overwhelming desire just to kill him. Didn't know why, but I said, why do I have this feeling on someone I never met? So John and I got to be friends. Well, one Saturday afternoon in 1983, John was sitting up here, and we were talking. I says, I remember you from Vietnam. And he said, really? I said, yeah, you were in a chopper with 13 kids. And I saw you again in Saigon a couple days later. He said, you're remembering? And I said, yes, John. I said, let me tell you what my first instinct was when you walked in my shop the first day. I said, I wanted to kill you. And John's face turned ashen white. All right, he says, I got someone I want you to meet. I says, okay, we'll meet up at the Nugget tomorrow evening. He said, fine. So at the point of time, I walked in 2 minutes late like I normally do. And John turned around, and I looked at Duncan and said, I know you. And he said, I know you too. And Shauna, who was with him, said, I know you as well. And I said, I know you. I saw you two in Cambodia. And Dunk says, you're right.
Okay, so he was one of the kids.
Duncan was.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to this blinding flash of light for a moment. Let's talk about that blinding flash of light. Don't leave us hanging. What was that? What happened?
They had to pull together some psychic energy from somewhere, and there was probably over 1,000 Viet Cong who were dead. Just simply dead bodies. None of us were hurt.
All right, now that Stargate patch, what does that mean?
Stargate is another project buried underneath Project Talent. And they use the Stargate. They can travel to distant planets, solar systems, universes.
So that actually exists?
Yes. And Aaron McCullum was definitely in that program.
Okay, so is this guy, this John Morrow, that had the Stargate patch, is he from the future, or is he from our time?
Well, he's from our time, and unfortunately he died a couple of years ago. He went back to take care of his mother in Ohio and developed this gruesome cancer that killed him in about 3 weeks.
That's a little
Isn't
curious.
that interesting?
Mm-hmm.